Your life is not built by chance. It is shaped by thought. Everything you are, everything you have, everything you ever will become starts in your mind. Think weak, live weak. Think strong, become unstoppable. Your thoughts are not harmless. They are builders. Every thought plants a seed. You are either growing strength or growing excuses. Every I can't is a nail in your own coffin. Every I will is a step toward dominance. You are what you think, not what you say, not what you wish. What you believe and hold in your mind daily. You want to change your life? Change the voice in your head. Silence the doubt. Eliminate the noise. Stop feeding your mind junk and wondering why your life is starving. Your brain is the control tower. Whatever dominates it controls your altitude. You can't think fear and walk in faith. You can't think failure and produce victory. And you will never win if your mind is scattered with hesitation and fear of judgment. Winners don't entertain useless thoughts. They train their minds like athletes train their bodies, daily, relentlessly, intentionally. Thoughts become beliefs. Beliefs become actions. Actions become habits. Habits become destiny. The chain starts in the mind. Do you want power? Discipline your mind. Do you want peace? Guard your thoughts. Do you want wealth, influence, impact? Then dominate your mental world. No more daydreaming without execution. No more wishing without will. Get laser focused. The world doesn't reward potential. It rewards proof. And proof begins with a mindset built on certainty. Not hope, certainty. Not maybe, must. Not someday, now. Every empire began with a thought. Every champion mastered their inner world before they ever won in the outer one. If you can't command your own thoughts, don't expect to command results. Thoughts are the blueprint of destiny. Your mind is the architect of your future, and every single thought is a brick being laid in the construction of your reality. What you allow to dominate your thinking will ultimately dominate your life. You cannot think in chaos and expect to live in peace. You cannot think small and expect to rise to greatness. Every thought, whether it's fueled by fear or forged in confidence, is planting something in the soil of your destiny. Some plant weeds, some plant fruit, and many people are harvesting misery because they've allowed the wrong thoughts to take root for far too long. You become what you think because your thoughts form the lens through which you see everything. That lens determines your decisions, your attitude, your energy, your responses, your actions, and the intensity with which you pursue your goals. When a person repeatedly tells themselves they're not good enough, that belief turns into hesitation. Hesitation becomes inaction, and inaction becomes regret. The mind doesn't care whether you're building a palace or a prison. It simply follows the design. You feed it every day. You cannot build a future while obsessing over your failures. You cannot step forward while your thoughts remain chained to fear, doubt, and excuses. The problem is not the world. The problem is that most people spend more time feeding their doubts than fueling their dreams. They build limitations in their minds before life ever tests them. The person who fails is not the one who lacked talent. It's the one who mentally surrendered long before the fight even began. Your thoughts determine your standards. They decide whether you tolerate average or demand greatness. They dictate how you see challenges, either as obstacles or as opportunities. The same storm hits everyone, but the person who has trained their thoughts to remain calm, focused, and resilient will navigate through it while others sink under pressure. If your mind breaks, your body will follow. But if your mind is unshakable, nothing can defeat you. Not circumstance, not critics, not setbacks, not even time. Most people underestimate the power of a disciplined thought. They think success is in the hustle and the grind and the show, but everything starts internally. If your thoughts aren't aligned with the life you want to build, you will sabotage your own path without even realizing it. You'll make decisions that shrink you. You'll hesitate when you should act. You'll settle when you should rise. A weak thought is the beginning of a weak life. But a dominant, directed, powerful thought, that is the seed of a life that shakes the earth. You don't need more resources. You need more resourceful thinking. You don't need perfect conditions. You need a powerful internal vision. Because the truth is simple. Life will respond to the blueprint you're drawing in your head every single day. And if you don't like where your life is going, it's time to tear down the old thoughts and start building new ones with clarity, with fire, with purpose. Nothing outside of you controls your future more than what's happening inside your head. You are building or breaking your destiny with every thought you think. So sharpen your mental tools, clear the clutter, lock in on the life you want, and start laying every thought down with precision and power, because the person who wins in life is not the one who wishes. They're the one who thinks with conviction, acts with intention, and builds without apology. Dominant thoughts shape identity. What you think about most becomes who you are. Your dominant thoughts carve your mindset, dictate your self-image, and mold the foundation of your reality. You can't continuously think like a victim and expect to act like a champion. The mind doesn't separate intention from repetition. What you feed it daily, it accepts as truth. And once it's embedded in your identity, your actions will reflect it in every area of life. If you think like a failure, talk like a failure, dwell on failure, then eventually your life will mirror that failure no matter how much talent or opportunity you have. Every decision, reaction, and goal is filtered through your identity, and identity is nothing but a reflection of your most repeated internal dialogue. A person who constantly thinks, I am disciplined, I am focused, I am unshakable, will eventually become those things even if they weren't at first, because the mind will begin to form behaviors that match the message it receives. The opposite is true for those who think, I can't, I'm not ready, I'm not enough. The brain starts looking for evidence to validate that script, and the life starts falling in line with that limiting identity. You cannot outperform the image you hold of yourself in your mind. You can grind, hustle, and push as hard as you want, but if your dominant thoughts are rooted in fear, insecurity, or self-doubt, you will subconsciously sabotage your progress. The mind always fights to stay congruent with what it believes is true. So when your dominant thought is, I'm not built for this, even your best efforts will have an expiration date, because your identity doesn't support long-term growth. Your identity is not something you find, it's something you forge, and you forge it through repetition, belief, and focus. You have to decide what kind of person you want to become, and then feed your mind the thoughts that reinforce that reality until it becomes automatic. A strong identity is not the result of success. It is the cause of it. The man who identifies as a leader will lead. The woman who believes she is relentless will persist. The individual who thinks like a builder will construct progress every day. Whether conditions are favorable or not, dominant thoughts are mental commands. They instruct the brain on how to respond, what to notice, what to ignore, and how to interpret the world. That is why two people can face the same problem. One crumbles, the other rises. The difference is never just skill. It's the identity behind the reaction. One sees the challenge as a threat to avoid. The other sees it as a trial to dominate. That difference in thought creates a completely different life path. Most people don't even realize they're programming their identity every single day. Every time you repeat a thought, you reinforce a belief. Every belief adds a brick to the wall of your identity. And eventually that wall either becomes a fortress that protects your purpose or a prison that limits your potential. You're always becoming something. The question is, are you becoming who you were meant to be, or are you becoming what your fears tell you to be? This is not about empty affirmations or fake positivity. It's about strategic mental warfare. If your dominant thoughts don't align with the life you want, then you are living in contradiction. And contradiction breeds frustration. That frustration won't be solved by working harder. It will only be solved when your mind and identity are aligned like a locked laser on a target. Choose your dominant thoughts wisely, because in the battle between external circumstances and internal beliefs, the identity shaped by your thoughts will always win. Your mind is a magnet. Whatever you dwell on consistently is exactly what you begin to attract. Your mind doesn't chase what's random. It pulls in what's repeated, what's emotionally charged, what's fed with focus and belief. If you're always thinking about problems, you'll find more problems. If you're constantly thinking about growth, opportunity, and power, then those things will begin to multiply. The law is simple. Your dominant mental frequency becomes your life's reality. Thoughts are energy, and energy attracts its match. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are, and what you are is determined by the thoughts you repeat. If your mind is locked on scarcity, struggle, and fear, life will give you more reasons to feel scarce, to struggle, to be afraid. But if your thoughts are saturated with confidence, vision, and belief, you will start pulling people, ideas, and opportunities that reflect and reinforce those thoughts. This isn't a vague concept. It's the result of your internal patterns aligning your perception, your decisions, your habits, and your outcomes. People walk around wondering why nothing changes while they're thinking the same things every day. You can't keep thinking defeat and expect to attract victory. You can't keep focusing on what you lack and expect abundance to show up. You can't fill your head with doubt and expect certainty to lead your steps. You either use your mind as a weapon or allow it to become a weakness. Every time you think a thought, you're giving your mind a command. You're turning the magnet in a direction, toward growth or toward decay. The most dangerous part is that this process doesn't care if the thought helps or harms you. The magnet works either way. It doesn't filter for truth, it responds to focus. So if you focus on betrayal, rejection, and fear, the magnet pulls in experiences and emotions that confirm those themes. Your brain starts seeing more of what you're already feeding it. That's why people who expect disappointment always find it, and those who expect to rise always do, because they have programmed the magnet to bring them what aligns with their vision. This is why mental discipline is non-negotiable. You don't get what's fair, you get what you're mentally aligned with. Start your day with weak thoughts, and the whole day bends in that direction. But begin with strong conviction, with gratitude, with precision of thought, and the current shifts. You have more power than you realize, and that power starts in what you permit to live in your mind. You can reset the magnet at any time, but most never do. They repeat mental patterns from their past and wonder why their future looks the same. Change your focus and your energy changes. Change your energy and your decisions shift. Shift your decisions and your life transforms. But it all begins in that quiet space between your ears. What are you feeding the magnet? What are you pulling in daily, not by chance, but by choice? Your results are not random. They're responses. Your relationships, your income, your peace, your success, they're all echoing the frequency of your thoughts. This is why no external victory is sustainable without internal alignment. You can win the game once, but if your magnet is pulling the wrong direction, you'll sabotage your own success. You'll return to the level your mind is set to. So don't just dream about what you want. Train your mind to pull it. Think intentionally, speak decisively, act consistently. Because the moment your mind locks onto a thought with belief, clarity, and purpose, the world starts bending in your favor. And that's not luck. That's mental law in motion. Control your mind or be controlled. There is no neutral ground. Either you take command of your thoughts or your thoughts will take command of you. The mind left unchecked becomes a chaotic battlefield, reacting to fear, feeding on distractions, and obeying the loudest voice in the room, even if that voice is weakness. If you don't control what enters your mental space, you give power to anything and anyone to shape your emotions, your decisions, your identity, and your direction. Self-mastery begins with mental mastery. Every failure to dominate your inner world will echo loudly in your outer world. The undisciplined mind is easily manipulated. It panics in pressure. It caves to opinions. It gets hijacked by fear, paralyzed by overthinking, and consumed by noise. But the trained mind moves with intent. It doesn't flinch under fire. It doesn't chase validation. It doesn't bow to emotion. It acts, it adjusts, it endures. You cannot build anything strong if your mind crumbles under stress. Strength doesn't begin in the body. It begins in the mind. Thoughts are not harmless. They are orders being written into your behavior, your decisions, your results. If you let every worry grow roots, it will paralyze action. If you let every doubt take up space, it will erase courage. If you let anger run wild, it will destroy what discipline could have built. Most people fail not because of a lack of opportunity, but because they never took control of their own mental environment. They live reacting, never creating. They survive instead of designing. You are either the master or the servant, and the only difference is control. When you don't lead your mind, life becomes directionless. You start moving without clarity, making choices based on impulses and emotions instead of principles and purpose. The mind will believe anything you feed it long enough. Feed it chaos and you will live in confusion. Feed it discipline and you will walk in precision. This is not about positive thinking. It's about powerful thinking. Thinking that is aligned with purpose, backed by action and anchored in truth. The world is loud. It wants your attention. It wants to sell you fear, urgency, and distraction. But if your mind is strong, you don't flinch, you don't absorb every message. You filter, you focus, you protect your energy like a warrior guards his sword. Your mind is a weapon, and every day you either sharpen it or dull it with your habits. If you can't sit alone with your thoughts without being dominated by them, you are not in control, you are being controlled. Control doesn't mean ignoring emotion, it means managing it. It means using fear as a signal, not a master. It means feeling stress, but choosing strategy over panic. It means recognizing distraction and choosing discipline. The strongest minds are not cold, they're clear. They've trained for moments where most people break. They've practiced stillness and chaos, focus and temptation, purpose and pressure. Because they've understood a truth most ignore, the battle is always mental before it's ever physical. Every goal you have, every result you want, every version of yourself you're chasing, it all begins with taking the throne inside your own head. No more being ruled by moods, no more making decisions from exhaustion, no more reacting to life like a puppet with no strings of your own. Take the wheel, grip it tight, and drive your mind like the machine it is. Because if you don't lead it, it will lead you straight into mediocrity, doubt, and regret. Think indefinites, not in maybes. Certainty is power. The person who moves with clarity of thought moves faster, stronger, and with more direction than the one lost in hesitation. Maybe is the language of the undecided, the confused, the ones who dip their toes into the water but never dive in. You cannot build an empire on uncertainty. You cannot lead, create, or conquer if your thoughts are soaked in doubt. Your life becomes unstable when your thoughts are unstable. To think indefinites is to make a mental contract with your outcome. It is to eliminate the back door and cut off every excuse before it ever speaks. Indecision breeds delay, and delay kills dreams. You don't lose time because you're lazy. You lose it because your mind isn't made up. A clear mind doesn't waste time wondering. It knows what it wants, locks in, and begins moving. While others are asking, what if it doesn't work? You've already taken 5 steps forward with what if it does. The people who win aren't always the smartest or the most talented. They are simply the ones who refuse to let maybe live in their mental vocabulary. Your brain needs direction. It will follow any path you give it. But if the path is vague, the results will be vague. Specific thoughts produce specific actions. Specific actions produce specific results. When you say, I might try, what you're really saying is, I'm not committed. And if you're not committed, don't expect results to commit to you. Thinking indefinites forces you to act in alignment. It sharpens your focus, removes distractions, and pushes you to operate at a level that maybe will never demand from you. Definite thinking doesn't mean you know every detail. It means you've decided on the outcome, and you're willing to do whatever is required to make it real. It's not about perfection, it's about direction. Uncertainty will have you chasing 100 paths and mastering none. But when your mind is made up, your steps become deliberate, your habits become disciplined, and your momentum becomes unshakable. Success isn't just about movement. It's about movement with intention. And that begins in the mind with a decision carved in steel. Every champion was once a beginner who simply made a decision. Every legacy was born in a mind that said, this is what I will do, not I'll try and see what happens. There is no strength in softness. There is no breakthrough in indecision. The world bends for the mind that refuses to waver. People follow those who speak and act with certainty. Energy flows to clarity. Opportunity finds those who think in terms of must, not maybe. Doubt is natural, but living in it is a choice. The mind, when trained in certainty, begins to filter every problem through the lens of possibility, not hesitation. It doesn't ask, can I? It asks, how will I? And that shift in mental framing turns obstacles into instructions. Every challenge becomes a test of commitment, not a reason to quit. When you think in definites, you remove your limits. You stop playing defense and start dictating the game. Decide what you want. Declare it in your mind like a command, not a suggestion. Then back it up with discipline, strategy, and action. Refuse to entertain alternatives that don't serve your mission. Silence the internal negotiations. Erase the mental loopholes. You don't need more time. You need more commitment. You don't need a perfect plan. You need an unshakable decision. Because once the mind is made up, everything else falls into place. Think indefinites, And watch your life align with precision, power, and unstoppable momentum. Persistence is mental strength. It's not talent that separates the great from the forgotten. It's the refusal to quit when quitting feels justified. Persistence is not just about showing up. It's about showing up after you've been knocked down, overlooked, doubted, or defeated. The true mark of mental strength is the ability to keep moving forward when progress is invisible and the reward feels miles away. Most people fold not because they weren't capable, but because they lacked the endurance to outlast the resistance. You will never master anything without persistence. It is the difference between temporary motivation and permanent transformation. Anyone can be excited for a moment. Anyone can work hard when it's easy. But persistence shows itself when the excitement fades, when the emotions die down, when everything feels like it's working against you, and yet you still take the next step. That's real strength. That's real power. And that's what builds champions. Every obstacle is a mental test. It doesn't matter how smart you are or how much potential you carry. If your mind folds under pressure, that potential means nothing. Persistence is what turns vision into reality. It is the inner contract you sign with yourself that says, I don't stop when I'm tired. I stop when it's done. And most never make it there, not because they couldn't, but because their mental wiring was programmed for comfort. Instead of conquest, you will be challenged. You will be ignored. You will fail. You will doubt yourself. And still, you must persist, because that persistence rewires the brain to expect progress, not permission. The mind that persists becomes immune to distraction, immune to negativity, immune to external noise. While others are looking for a way out, the persistent mind is carving a way through. That mindset doesn't fear the process. It embraces it because it knows the longer it endures, the stronger it becomes. Pain is temporary, but quitting is permanent. And every time you give up, you reinforce a mental habit of surrender. But every time you persist through pain, through pressure, through doubt, you train yourself to become unbreakable. Persistence builds mental calluses, thick layers of resilience that allow you to take hits and keep moving. You don't get that by reading books or watching videos. You get that by choosing not to break when everything in you screams to give in. You can't fake persistence. You either have the mindset or you don't. And the good news is, it can be built. It is built every time you do what needs to be done, regardless of how you feel. It is built when you get up on day 91 with the same fire you had on day 1. It is built when you don't see results, but you still show up with discipline, focus, and drive. Mental strength isn't loud, it's consistent. It doesn't make noise, it makes progress. The world rewards those who stay in the game. It doesn't matter how slow you go if you don't stop. People may overlook you, results may delay, failures may sting, but persistence doesn't care. It doesn't need applause. It doesn't need perfect conditions. It doesn't wait for motivation. It just keeps going. And eventually, the world moves for those who refuse to move backward. Your growth lies on the other side of your resistance. So lean into it, fight through it, dominate it, because persistence is not just about holding on. It's about rising up every time you fall. It's about walking through storms that break others and using them as fuel. It's about proving to yourself that no external force is stronger than your internal fire. Persistence is mental strength, and once you own it, nothing can stop you.